On April 21st, 2023, I posted a video on my channel called String Theory Lied to Us and Now Science Communication is Hard. And the plot of that video is right there in the title. I went through my journey as a child in the early 2000s, a physics enthusiast, like someone who would go and read magazines and articles and go find news science.com websites to read about physics and the latest updates in physics. And as a child, I kept seeing all this information about string theory, about how it's this big, huge thing. And in 10 years, you just wait, oh my God, space travel, because string theory is the next big thing. And then, of course, as I say in the video, I went to graduate school and I learned that, like, oh, string theory is a pretty fringe theory of physics. It's not really an important or remarkable theory in physics. Why is it being reported on all the time? And I kind of go back and I see the way these physicists were selling their stories to the media as like, this is the big revolution in string theory. It's a huge deal. And I complained in that video that that misrepresentation of how important their science was to the media caused a problem where now normal people don't trust science news because all they think is like, well, they kept saying string theory was going to replace quantum mechanics. And like, now we're in this conundrum that science communication is really hard because people distrust it. That was the point of that video. At the end of that video, I talked about how it was interesting how now, as a professional physicist, I find myself defending string theory. Like, yeah, it's a fringe theory, but it's a totally real thing that, like, some physicists want to do, and they're allowed to, and it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. It's not like it's fake physics or bad physics. It's just not the most interesting or remarkable or important physics, but people still do it. I had been making videos for a while at this point, and when I released that video, I could expect like 300, maybe 1,000 views per video, and that's how this video went for the first couple of days, and then it like, I don't know, it got pushed by the algorithm or something, and it went from like my normal like 900 views to like 30,000 something, which was like exciting at the time, but it's also a little bit scary because you when you leave your regular audience, a lot of real melon heads come out, and I started getting comments on that video that completely misunderstood the video. I kept getting these comments that were like, yeah, I totally agree, physics is broken. I totally agree, physics hasn't done anything in 50 years. I totally agree, all physicists are scammers and physics is broken and they don't know what they're doing. They're just lying. And for some reason, a lot of these comments really hate particle physics. And I still to this day have no idea where this comes from. But I will get these random comments that are like, yeah, those particle physicists are just making up particles, which is so, it's just like the stupidest thing you can say, because particle physics is like the most successful field of physics. Like, they don't invent new particles, they predict them from theory and then find them experimentally. Like, that's amazing and cool. And how dare you come to my comments and talk shit about physics when all I talk about is how much I love physics? Why do you think I would agree with that? Where did this come from? And that's when I realized I can never talk about string theory again, because boy, do I not want those physics haters in my comments, because I like physics. I like talking about physics. I like talking about physics theories and physics experiments. Like, that's the whole thing I'm doing here most of the time. And so that was that. And I decided to like, okay, I'm going to take it back. Like, the YouTube advice is always like, if you get a hit, you got to keep making that content. Like, if I wanted to have a successful channel, you can't see me, this is a voiceover, I'm doing air quotes. If I wanted to have an air quote successful channel, what I should have done is immediately done a second video on string theory, and probably also still played more Binding of Isaac, because the people who are like that, they just want to see that same video over again. They want to see me just parrot their opinions back. They want to see a video where I'm like, yeah, I agree, physics is broken, even though I don't think that. And so I didn't make a second video, and I don't like that those people commented that. It hurts my feelings. It hurts my feelings that someone would watch my videos where I talk about nothing but love for physics. Like, and they would just think that I hated it. I love physics. Physics is not a scam, actually. Particle physics is great. And you know what? Physicists have done a hell of a lot in the last 50 years. And if you think the answer is that they've done nothing, you're delusional. Get off my channel. How could this have happened? But it actually happens every time I have a video that like pops off. Like my Dyson Sphere video, where I talk about how Freeman Dyson is hilarious and how this paper is a really interesting joke paper on a discussion people were having about like the relevance of SETI and if we should be spending telescope time on that and how funding gets allotted. I thought it was a really fun video, except now I have a bunch of people in my comments who are like, yeah, Freeman Dyson sure is stupid. And it's like, if that's what you took away from that video, like, what is media literacy? How could that be the takeaway from that video? But it happens every time. Like if I ever get more than 100,000 views on a video, it's bad news for my comment section. I had to buy a subscription to the Wall Street Journal to access this article. So they have my $2. No, they have my $8 because I had to buy 4 months, I think. Listen, if you're watching this in December, go find my Blue Sky and just comment on my latest shit post that I need to cancel my Wall Street Journal subscription. Thank you so much. So this article, well, it's called a science-physics-essay. This science-physics-essay is called The Rise of, in scare quotes, Conspiracy Physics. And let me read the byline to you. Streamers are building huge audiences by attacking academic physics as just another corrupt establishment. Scientists are starting to worry about the consequences. And this is by Dan Kagan-Cons, posted September 11th, 2025. Okay, so this article is interesting because, well, for one, it's interesting because this sweet author, this sweet guy thinks that this is a new phenomenon where this conspiracy physics is of course as old as crackpot physics, which is as old as actual physics. But he is talking about the grifters specifically that have risen up. And again, it's not recent. It's been 20 years of like physics grifters on the internet. But these people who get millions of followers and say things like physics is broken, there's a crisis in physics, the field hasn't, oh, here's the quote, the field, they argue, has discovered little of importance in the last 50 years because it's dominated by groupthink and silences anyone who dares dissent from mainstream ideas like string theory. And that, see, I don't know if the author realizes just the beauty in that sentence, because that's the thing. String theory, please believe me, is not a mainstream idea in physics. Of course, it is a theory. It is a field of research. People study it, and that's totally fine, and they're allowed to do that, and they publish their work, and that's fine. But it is not a mainstream theory of physics like relativity or quantum mechanics or just like the subfield. Like people don't even split themselves up that way. But the public, people who are not physicists, think string theory is mainstream. So grifters can get on the internet and they can say, those physicists think that there are 75 dimensions. And if you say there's not 75 dimensions, they kick you right out of the academy. And like, that's horseshit. That's just a made-up story. It's a lie. I guarantee that you can go into any physics department in any country in the world and you can say, string theory is like a little bit silly, kind of. And as long as you're not rude or mean, people will be like, oh, well, yeah, a little bit. But you could talk about the merits of it. You could talk about the physics grounding of it. But no one is going to kick you out. It's just that string theory is not a mainstream. I bet every single physicist would dissent and say that string theory is not a mainstream physics idea. But that's how you get, but that is how they get you. That is the grift. The grifters convince you that string theory is the mainstream, and doesn't that sound silly? But like, that's just not true on its face. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I'm glad he called it conspiracy physics, though. I feel like that's a really like valuable way to describe these people. The article goes on to talk about Eric Weinstein, who apparently, I just learned from this article, is a podcaster and former managing director at Thiel Capital, who coined the term intellectual dark web. But Eric Weinstein is not a physicist, but his whole career is saying, I have a theory of everything and no one will listen to me. Physics is broken. They won't even look through the telescope, right? It's an obvious grift. If you fall for that, I'm so sorry, but that's embarrassing for you. Like, there is a standard way to get physicists to look at your theory of everything, which is to write a paper and publish it. But the devastating thing for Eric Weinstein is that, of course, if he were to publish his theory of everything, people would be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. This is bad physics. We're probably not going to cite this or discuss it any further, right? So in order to make money, which is his business, he has to pretend that no one will listen. No, everyone refuses to listen to his theory, when it's like, dude, just publish it, man. A bunch of people sent me a link to this discussion on Piers Morgan like months ago, I think, or maybe it was different. See, like, Eric Weinstein just gets on a different YouTube grifter's channel every few weeks and gives the exact same spiel about how no one will listen to him. And every time people send it to me, like, I am interested in that. I don't care. I don't care what the physics conspiracy theorists do. It's none of my business. It's just an obvious grift. It's an obvious pathetic grift. I don't want to talk about it. So we won't. We'll just keep moving on in this article. He calls these people renegades who get friendly receptions on like the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff. And that's kind of what this is. It's like oh God, like Alex Jones, right? Alex Jones pretends to be like a news outlet, but really he's doing outrage bait. So you click on his link and buy his supplements. And this is the same thing. The article goes on to talk about another conspiracy physicist, German physicist Sabine Hossenfelder, who has 1.72 million YouTube subscribers. She gets those subscribers by attacking her colleagues. Here's a quote from her. Your problem is that you're lying to the people who pay you. Your problem is that you're cowards without a shred of scientific integrity. And of course, if you go look at this channel, like 5 years ago, it's normal explainer physics videos, but as these people chase the algorithm, they see that like, oh, if I talk shit, I get a bunch of views. So I should just keep doing that. Physics is broken. I'm a professional physicist and physics hasn't done anything in 50 years. You can see as you keep going through this article that the author of this article has a similar problem that like all physics media has. Here's a quote. In fact, cutting edge ideas in physics can themselves sound a bit like conspiracy theories. The holographic principle and idea first proposed by Susskind and Gerard Hooft in the early 1990s implies that our reality might function sort of like a hologram, which is projected into 3 dimensions from a 2-dimensional film. Would you call this a cutting edge physics idea? No, this is still fringe physics. This is fringe physics. Real physics is all like lasers and materials and doing experiments, but the only thing that gets put in the news is stupid free will, super determinism, holographic and like all of that is physics. Those are physics ideas, but they're certainly not the ones with the most interesting results or applications or the things people go to school to do. Like, people want to do actual things, and no one cares about the actual things. The only thing the media talks about is the stuff that sounds crazy, which makes physics sound crazy, which contributes to this problem. The holographic principle is not a cutting-edge physics idea. Plus, it's like 50 years old. Whatever. The next part of the article is about another YouTuber called Professor Dave, who has 3.88 million followers. I don't know who this is, but apparently he does the opposite. He watches the conspiracy theory physicist and then makes content being like, man, that's dumb, which is a noble effort, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But like, the same thing happens to me. People will be like, hey, I love your channel. I only want to hear you talk about free will and super determinism. Hey, I love your channel. Do we really live in a simulation? And it's just like, I want to talk about the interesting physics. I want to talk about the stuff that's cool. I want to talk about like the experiments that are actually happening. I'm glad, I guess, that so many people are interested in fringe physics, but I simply am not. Like, if you have a physics YouTube channel, the only thing people ever want to hear from you are conspiracy physics. They want you to respond. They want you to waste the precious time you have on Earth to describe your feelings on whether or not we live in a simulation. And it's just so boring. There's so much cool stuff in physics. I want to talk about antimatter. I want to talk about antimatter experiments. I want to talk about how big the hydrogen atom is. I want to talk about some cool Indian physicists who have a cool story, and I want to tell you that cool story. But the thing is if you make physics videos, you're going to see that your audience only responds to you talking about conspiracy theories. And if you want to make this your job, I guess, you will find yourself falling down this conspiracy theory hole, and you will start making videos like this, and you will start going on like Joe Rogan's podcast and other right-wing media outlets, and you'll be asking yourself, how did this happen? And the problem is the audience. Imagine you have a friend. That sounded like super harsh. I mean, I know you have friends. Imagine one of your friends came up to you and was like, hey, I'm a book guy now. And you say, oh, so you're into reading books. And he says, no way. I saw a YouTuber. They have 2 million subscribers, and they have a book podcast where they deliver book news. And they say there hasn't been a good book in 50 years. All the English teachers are lying to you. Good books don't even exist anymore. And you're like, what? What about Lonesome Dove or White Noise or The Handmaid's Tale or The Hours? Like, the whole Hunger Games trilogy was really good, and that's like 20 years old. What do you even mean? And he goes, those aren't books. Those are word engineering. You got to watch this podcast. I'm a book guy now. There hasn't been a real book for 50 years. And you would leave this conversation worried about your friend, who is obviously falling down some sort of internet grift, which can only lead to right-wing radicalization. And he leaves that conversation thinking that you think he's super smart because he's a book guy now, even though he hasn't read a single book. You see, this is a pretty standard grift, right? Grifters convince you that something is broken and only they have the answers. And you're the smart one because you're listening. Sure, why not? Like, you're a book guy now, even though you haven't read a single book, because books are broken. Why would you ever read a book? Books are broken. And then the part I don't kind of understand is, like, the grifters make a bunch of money from this somehow. And I do want to spell this out because I feel like, as I said before, a lot of people miss the point of my videos. But this is, I did a book example, but that's exactly what these physics conspiracy people sound like. The physics conspiracy grift is like, hey, physics hasn't done anything in 50 years. Physics is broken. And that's not true. But if they convince you it's true, they convince you that you're the smart one for listening. And you're a physics guy. You're a physics enthusiast. You don't ever have to open a book. You don't ever have to solve a physics problem because you're a physics guy. And why would you look at a physics textbook? Because physics is broken, and you know that because you're smart. That's the grift. That it's just physicists are wasting all their time on string theory, and physics hasn't done anything for 50 years, and they won't even replace quantum mechanics, even though they know it's wrong. It's just like a stupid thing to say. It's an embarrassing thing to believe, and I did a whole video on this. Barely anybody does string theory. It's certainly not a leading theory of physics, and it's definitely never going to replace quantum mechanics, because if you are going to replace quantum mechanics, which is just exceptionally good at answering physics questions, you would have to explain every single result from quantum mechanics as well, because quantum mechanics is going fucking gangbusters. Quantum mechanics is amazing, and sure, maybe in the future something will replace it, but it has to explain all of quantum mechanics. And also, believe you me, if someone came up with some sort of idea that replaced quantum mechanics completely and also explained all the results, physicists would lose their minds. They would be so excited because physicists want the answers. Like, they're not sitting in some secret academic cabal where they're like, if anybody says anything bad about quantum mechanics, you'll get kicked out. We sure do hate people who say mean things about the theory that's obviously wrong. Like, that's so stupid. Do you hear how stupid that sounds? It's just, physics is fun. Why do you pretend to like physics when you don't even want to hear about real physics? All you want to listen to are people talking about how shitty physics is. You say you like physics, and then you go watch content from the physics haters. Why? What is in that for you? What is the point? You don't want complicated and fun physics. You just want to be a physics guy. You don't want to learn physics because that would be hard. So what you do is watch some random conspiracy physicist grifter on YouTube be like, yeah, physics is broken. Don't waste your time. And you're like, yeah, physics is broken. I'm smart. And it makes me sad because I don't think you're stupid. I think you're selling yourself short. I do not think physics is some sort of tool of the managerial class that is somehow out of reach of all the normal people on Earth. That makes me sad. Learning physics is an incredibly achievable goal. And if you want to do that, I would encourage you to do that. I have a video on how you can teach yourself physics. And pro tip, it would be easiest if you just took a class at a community college. I know that it's really expensive, but like if you could save up $800, if you really want to learn physics, you can find somewhere to learn physics. Also, the Khan Academy is great. You are selling yourself short by just listening to these grifters tell you that physics is broken. Just learn physics. I promise you, it's exciting and it's fun and it's rewarding. Like, why is this what you want? I am not a physics communicator. I have gone on record saying that I know I am not teaching anybody physics with my videos, but I feel like I do communicate how fun physics can be, how interesting physicists are, and how like rewarding it is to solve a problem. I know you can't learn physics from me, but I think you can learn physics. I think learning physics is achievable and you can do it. So why do you like this? How does it make you feel when someone posts a video and calls a bunch of physicists stupid and claims that physics is broken and claims that physics is unsuccessful? Do you feel scammed? Does it not hurt your feelings that these people think so little of you that they can just scam you out of liking physics? Why waste your time with this? There are avenues to learn physics. Learning physics is achievable if you are willing to put in the time and effort to use your brain. These grifters are offering you a pretend shortcut. They claim they can show you the secret inner world of physics, and they are lying. It's embarrassing. Physics is broken. Why do you like hearing that? Why do you like that? Like, seriously, what's in it for you? To hear someone lie about the entire field of physics and convince you that it's broken, what do you get out of that? What do you gain by listening to that? You're certainly not learning anything about physics because they're misrepresenting the field. So why do you like looking at it? Conspiracy physics and me. I know it should be and I, but I think conspiracy physics and me sounds better. And language is alive and we can change it if we want to, and I think that that's better. So whatever. This is kind of the standard video that I feel like all content creators, derogatory, make, where they're like criticizing something else and they realize they're criticizing themselves. Listen, I worked in food service for nearly a decade. I've had people yell at me about how long the food takes or how much it costs or what's available. I've had people yell at me with their whole heart, red in the face, because I gave their kids 2 different Happy Meal toys. And I've also had people do the exact same thing because I gave their kids the same Happy Meal toy. I got called the C word once. Someone threw a large Diet Coke extra ice at me through the drive-thru. I slammed the window shut so it didn't hit me, but like it still happened. And all of that is true. I've dealt with all of that. Fast food, that's what you can expect. Humans are monsters, but this is the meanest thing anyone has ever done to me. And it was you guys. I thought you liked watching my stuff. I thought I was making cool physics videos about physics history and fun stories. And you like watching this stuff. I know we don't have enough data, obviously, but when I look at this, I imagine the Venn diagram of my channel and this channel, And like obviously this channel, Sabine Hassenfelder's channel, is way more successful than mine. Like in order of magnitude more subscribers, I get like 600,000 views a month, which is crazy. It's a huge number. But she gets like 5 million, right? She posts like 25 videos a month, and all of them have like an ad read, like a sponsorship. Like she's way more successful than me, right? And if I made a little Venn diagram of who's watching our videos, because of this, in my head, I see like a giant circle of people watching her videos. Obviously, she gets way more views. And then my entire audience fits inside, and I'm like, really? Really? Like, I also had to look at my analytics for this video, so I found that most of you guys are watching on your phone. So I don't think you're watching it at all, right? So no one cares if I just do audio. I don't know, I should probably go on camera for this part to talk shit about myself and get like real. So, I guess the question is, do my intentions when making a video matter? Like, if I make a video that I think is physics because I love physics, but everyone watches it and they're like, yeah, she hates physics, just like all my other physics creators. I love the people who hate physics. Like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm still contributing to the problem. I do love physics. I like to tell physics stories. I like to talk about physics research. And even when I am critical towards things, I don't think I'm critical of physics or physics research. Like, I did a video about the sham legacy of Richard Feynman, and that video was about how people take his legacy and make it into something it isn't. That was a criticism of physics bros, of Feynman bros. I talked a lot about, especially towards the end of the video, how good a physicist he was, how good a teacher Richard Feynman was, and what like a model he is for someone who wants to learn physics. I mean, I've shit on this hilarious homework problem paper from Ed Witten about maybe Planet 9 is a black hole. If it is, we should sphere it with gravity, so many times. But like, that's because that's like an inconsequential paper. That's not me shitting on Ed Witten. Like, Ed Witten is a genius, and he has earned the ability to publish whatever he sneezes out onto a paper, and that's just funny to me. It's just funny to me that you get so famous, you get so known for being intelligent that you kind of lose the filter and you just publish whatever. Of course, Ed Witten, incredibly talented physicist. Of course, string theory. I defend people's ability and willingness to do string theory, of course. Is it a leading theory of physics? Absolutely not. But like, people still do it and they're allowed to. Like, I would never call Ed Witten a phony. I would criticize his relationship with the media, but his work, of course, stands the test of time. Even on this video where I talked about the Harvard astronomer, I specifically went into detail on how his paper about Oumuamua was a standard physics paper. It was a standard research physics paper, and then at the end, he just kind of tacked on like, and maybe, I guess, possibly, it could be of non-natural origin. And then he went around to the media and was like, I published a paper about aliens, and that's simply not true what he did. But I didn't criticize the paper. The paper was fine because otherwise it wouldn't have been published, right? I don't think I go around on my channel and talk shit about physics. I do love physics. That's all I talk about. So it's just so hard for me to comprehend how someone could watch my videos and turn around and leave the comments that they do and watch the other videos that they do and suggest to me the videos that they suggest that I make. I think physics is really fun and exciting. And when I watched the videos I had to watch to make this video, these are physics haters. I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want the people who like my stuff to like that stuff. But the people who watch me also watch the physics haters. So am I a physics hater, even though in my brain and my mind and my heart, I love physics, obviously. I'm just lumped in with these people. Like, fuck. I'm Neil Breen, I mean, you might not know because, of course, I look through my analytics to see what channels people who watch me also watch, and you guys are not watching Red Letter Media. But there's a guy who makes movies, and he thinks he's making real movies. And then Red Letter Media watches them, and like the public in general watch them, and they laugh like they're bad B movies, but he thinks he's making good movies. And I think I'm making fun physics stories, but I guess I'm not. I'm making physics haterade videos, and that's just fuck. But then I was thinking, like, I do on my channel very publicly and loudly and vocally criticize billionaires. I make fun of billionaires. I don't like billionaires. I don't like how they co-opt physics and pretend to be Tony Stark while, like, steal our labor and our dollars and ruin our environment and just sit down and have dinner with fascist regimes. But do you think me criticizing Elon Musk for being a dumbass who says stupid things about physics is the same thing as like Sabine Hossenfelder grabbing a random physics paper from some random physicist from some random university and then making fun of it and calling that guy a phony and saying his research is fake? Do you think that that's the same? Like, are those the same picture to you? Do you see me criticizing a billionaire who's laughably idiotic the same thing as someone just randomly grabbing someone out of the air, just a human person with a job, and making fun of their work, like publicly calling them a liar? Do you think that's the same thing? I don't understand. I have responded to these people before in an attempt to like make people stop like lumping me in with them. Like, I made this video about why people are wrong about dark matter. Like, it's not a theory. It's a very interesting and exciting problem. And when you parrot physics conspiracy theorists and say, they just have the data wrong, it's simply an error of measurement. It's like, well, no, it's a much more interesting problem than that. And isn't it fun to learn about? It's fun. It's fun and exciting. I love physics. I made this video because they're always like, physics has not done anything in 50 years. And I was like, well, here's my favorite things physics has done. And all the comments were like, actually, that's engineering. And it's just like, oh, okay. So the only physics that counts is whatever imaginary quantum mechanics replacement you can envision, and everything else is just engineering. Like, what? I did this series on antimatter. That reminds me, I've been meaning to take... I made that series, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to clip all those together and make one log antimatter video. Like, that was always the intention, but I thought that, like, I would remember to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to remember to do that right after I film this. That's what's going to happen today. I made this antimatter video series, and I did like 3 videos on antimatter, and I ended with this really cool experiment that had been done very recently. I rarely talk about new physics in videos because it leads to this. It leads to what I'm about to say, where I was like, oh, it's a really cool experiment where they measure if antimatter falls down. Because for very silly reasons, people were like, what if it falls up? And it was just silly. It's funny to think that. I think that's a silly idea, but of course you have to test it. And that's why physics is so cool. And I talked about how cool that experiment was and that I liked it. And I talked about how interesting it was the way they did that. And I got so many comments that were like, I also found that experiment very suspicious. Thank you for pointing it out. Like, suspicious. Don't put words in my mouth. I said it was cool. I enjoyed it. I was giddy with excitement, as excited as you'll ever see me talking about that experiment. And a bunch of people saw it and they were like, yeah, thanks for confirming that physics is stupid and physicists haven't done anything in 50. It's like, where are you getting this from me? I simply have not said anything like that, and I would never, because I'm not a physics hater. I actually like it. And that's where I'm at. Because, like, if people misread my videos, even if I have good intentions, if people are watching them and being like, yeah, I love this girl who hates physics. I love this girl who speaks truth to power and says physics hasn't done anything for 50 years. And also, by the way, for some reason, we really hate particle physics. Where is it coming from? Particle physics is good. It's one of the coolest ones. I mean, it's still my fault, right? Like, even if I have good intentions, Obviously, I'm not communicating well. Obviously, me just telling fun stories is not being interpreted as fun physics stories, and I should stop. And I do think I'm going to. I'm just going to stop making physics videos for a while because I don't want to be contributing to this right-wing garbage anti-intellectualism bullshit. Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who are completely willing to make a bunch of money off that, but I don't want to participate in that. I don't want to participate in a bunch of 20-year-olds being like, yeah, science is stupid. I watch a YouTuber called Angela Collier and she tells me science is stupid. And I don't think I've ever said that, but that's what people take away. And so I must stop. And maybe eventually these people will get off my channel and they'll stop commenting because it just makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad to find, like, do a bunch of research and read a bunch of interviews from the 50s and have so much fun writing a little script and making my super silly video and being like, guys, check out these Indian physicists. They're so cool and funny. And then a bunch of people comment like, yeah, physics is broken. Thanks, Angela. Like, it feels bad. It just feels bad. And I also feel bad right now in this moment for making this video. This is a video people have been asking me to make since my string theory video. Just, I guess people love drama. I don't think this is a drama video. I don't think what I'm saying is dramatic. Like, I think what I'm saying is boring and obvious. Like, in this moment, me saying, hey, those physics conspiracy theorists, those physics haters who go on podcasts and talk about how, physics hasn't done anything in 50 years and particle physics is broken and like the establishment doesn't want you to know that sometimes people don't like string theory. Like, it's obviously bullshit. It obviously doesn't make any sense. It's obviously a grift to make money. Like, what did you expect me to say? Did you expect me to be like, no, maybe Eric Weinstein has a good point. Like, he won't even write down his stupid theory. Of course it's nonsense. What do you, like, use your own brain. Why do you need me to tell you that? Why do you want me to tell you that? This was a Patreon video. They voted on it. I'm so sorry, guys. You can quit my Patreon. It's fine. Like, if this isn't what you wanted, it's fine. Like, no hard feelings. I'll refund you the last month or whatever. I think there's a button for me to do that. Just send me a message. But like, what did you expect me to say? I don't know. But I also feel bad because this is also an embarrassing thing for me to say. It feels like punching down a little bit. And I mean, like, I know, right? Like, Sabine Hossenfelder is incredibly successful. Like, she has taken being a YouTube physics guy and turned it into a career, like a business, right? She has an order of magnitude more subscribers than me. She's able to post 25, 30 videos a month. Every single video of hers has a sponsorship. Like, in comparison, my channel is like obviously my channel it's big. I have 300,000 subscribers, but in comparison, it's a teeny tiny little guy, like even though my channel is tiny and laughably like small and unsuccessful in comparison to hers, it does feel, it feels like punching down for me to point out, like, it's really super pathetic to have a video about how you've been canceled and how you've been silenced and RIP free speech to get 1 million views. Like, that's just so sad. Do you know what I mean? It's embarrassing every time you don't get a grant or a professorship or invited to give a talk to make a video and cry to your more than 1 million subscribers and be like, I'm just telling the truth and no one will listen to me. And it's like, but 1 million people are listening to you. What are you talking about? It gives Dave Chappelle talking about how he's not allowed to tell the jokes he wants to tell on a sold-out arena tour that was taped for Netflix. Do you know what I mean? Like, when nerdy little kids are told that, no, they're just being mean to you because they're jealous of you. Like, that. I know that. I get that feeling. Imagine if someone carried that attitude into adulthood and they're just like, I lost my affiliation because I tell the truth. I'm just too good. Everyone's jealous of my physics. That's why. God, it makes me feel bad don't make me watch this. It's pathetic and sad. It feels bad to say that. But do the 1.7 million people who are subscribed not realize that? Or do they think the story sounds good? But this is about me, right? Like, if people are going to watch my videos and lump me in with these grifters anyway, like, why don't I just take the easy route? Why don't I just start publishing, like, weekly boring ass science news videos where I'm like, look at this paper. So dumb. Science is broken. Like, is that what you want to watch? Like, because that'd be way easier than the videos I make now. I could apply for a job at Harvard as a professor, and when I don't get it, because I've been out of academia for years and I haven't published in an academic journal for years, I could be like, it's cancel culture. That's why. That's why I didn't get the job at Harvard. I'm being canceled because I tell the truth, guys. And it's like, well, no. There are obviously things Harvard would be looking for, and one of those things is like a rich academic history, which I just don't have anymore because I've been out of the field. That's why I wouldn't get the job at Harvard. But man, I guess you guys would like the video where I cry and say it's because I've been canceled, because one time I talked about string theory on the internet, and by the way, defended it from critics and said it was fine. It's just not a leading theory of physics. Is that what you want? Is that the video you want? I'm not going to make that video. Like, people are lumping me in with the grifters, but I sure am leaving a lot of money on the table by not participating in the grift. Like, I feel like I have a very successful YouTube channel. I make like 600,000 views per month. And I know how much AdSense money that is, but this channel, I added it up for September. It's like nearly 5 million views. And this is a lot more AdSense money, but also there's so many videos posted, like 25 per month, and every single video has an ad. Well, I counted 23 for September. I might have missed one. 23 ads. And I only have 300,000 subscribers, right? But if Brilliant or Ground News or Article or BetterHelp or whatever sponsored me, I know how much I would be paid for that. With only 300,000 subscribers, I could expect like $5,000 to $10,000 per ad read. I don't know how that scales with subscribers. Like, if you have an order of magnitude more subscribers than me, does that mean you get an order of magnitude more for like your ad rate? I don't think so. I don't think it scales that way. But surely with nearly 2 million subscribers, you could request more money for each ad read, right? I feel like it would be gauche for me to like put the number of months in a year, 12, on the screen, and then say, hey, maybe multiply for the 24-ish ads you do each month, and then you could multiply that number by just ballpark $7,500 per ad. Like, to do that math and put it on the screen, it's like a little antisocial and weird to talk about money in that way. But like, it's just interesting to post a video begging for money because you were rude, you broke all the social norms in the community of physicists and then lost your affiliation, and then say it's a free speech issue and ask for money and to be given a ton of money when like we can ballpark how much money the channel is making in the first place. And like what is this little GoFundMe for $20,000 for? Like, just do 2 extra ads per month. Like, what are you gonna do with the 20 grand? Like, on top of Patreon, on top of YouTube memberships, on top of an ad every single video. I was going to do a video about this book. It's called The War on Science, and it's edited by, alleged sexual predator Lawrence Krauss. Here's a photo of him. I've already done a video on him. I emailed the publisher in like January, I think, and I said, hey, I'm a YouTuber and I talk about science, and I would love to review this book for my channel. And the person got back to me, and they were like so kind and sweet, and they were like, absolutely, we love to talk to YouTubers, we would love to send you a copy, just get back to me because it's not done yet. This book, which came out in July, wasn't done yet. Okay, I don't know how publishing works, but that seems odd. But I just felt too bad because like obviously this is a stupid book. and I was going to make fun of it. And I didn't want to get that person in trouble. So I never responded. And I was like, well, if I want to do a video, I'll just buy the book, which I did. I paid money for this. But then I found out that this YouTuber, Sean, was going to make a video on this. And I was like, well, his video would be better than mine. So, like, I don't need to. And, like, you know what I would say. It's just, like, a hilariously out of time book to publish in the summer of 2025. Just, like, the Trump administration has canceled so many grants and so many funding opportunities. And, you know, they're kind of like infiltrating these institutions and firing all the black people in charge under the guise of like anti-Semitism. And these people are like, the real war on science is that I got fired for sexually harassing the undergrads. I've been canceled. Like, it's hilarious. But like, there's nothing else for me to say. But there is a familiar character on the back of this book. There's this comedy festival going on. Hang on, let me look up what it's called. So there's this comedy festival called the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Oh, it's happening right now, September 26th to October 9th, 2025. And it's like a government-funded comedy festival under a government who has done very bad things. And so a bunch of people, I think, are rightfully calling out these comedians who are participating in it in return for, like, exorbitant, huge checks. Like, checks that you wouldn't believe. Huge checks, right? And I saw Mark Maron criticizing it, like saying, obviously, it's a bad thing to participate in. But then he has this line.
Easy to maintain your integrity when no one's offering to buy it out, you know?
I just think that that's really funny. Like, it's really easy to be principled when you're not staring the huge check in the face. And I did not read this book because I knew someone else was going to make a video on it, and I didn't want to subject myself to that. But I did see Sabine Hossenfelder's little blurb on the back, and I was like, man, that must have been a huge check. Huge. Like, to blurb a book by an Epstein associate, to just put your name as like, I am a person willing to work with this other person, and in fact even support them in their journey from being canceled for sexually harassing the undergrads, like, you know, allegedly. It must have been a huge check. And I was like, okay, I've never been offered a huge check. So, like, maybe I don't know what it's like. Like, Fabiola from Ground News, she's in my email every single day, and she's like, please get back to me, do an ad for me, please. And I always say no, right? But like $5,000 to $10,000, while a lot of money, not a huge check. Do you know what I mean? What was the check to say? Should I read it to you? Higher education isn't what it used to be. Cancel culture and DEI have caused many to keep their mouths shut. Not so the authors of this book. This collection of essays tells of threats to open inquiry, free speech, and the scientific process itself. A much-needed book. What was the check? What was the check to say, sure, Epstein associate, I would love to positively blurb your book. There's no way she read this, right? This is unreadable. I tried. It's a struggle. And I was thinking about myself, and like, it would have to be a huge check to make me like do something against my values. But like, what if it was a huge check? Like, all of us, I think everyone would like to say that they would refuse money. But what if it's like life-changing money? What if it's fuck you money? Like, how much do you get paid to blurb a book? And was it fuck you money? Was it fuck you money that finally it came to the point where her, like, whoever she was working with was like, you have to stop using our name. Like, I don't think they were paying her. She didn't have grants or anything. She's funded by YouTube. But like, it must have been a huge enough money where she was like, all right, I don't need the affiliation anymore. Right? And then I was like, what would that number be for me? And then I asked my friend who works in the book industry how much people usually get paid for blurbs. And she said they don't. She said that's usually like a favor from friend to friend, or like someone who's in the same publishing house as you. This was a favor. As a favor to Epstein associate, alleged sexual harasser that definitely quit his job and he wasn't fired for sexual harassment, Lawrence Krauss, as a favor, just to put your name in bright red letters, bigger than the text on the back of this book, for free. So I don't know what's going on. Higher education isn't what it used to be. Cancel culture and DEI have caused many to keep their mouths shut. Not so the authors of this book. This collection of essays tells of threats to open inquiry, free speech, and the scientific process itself. A much-needed book.